Hey guys, welcome to the, I was going to say Tony and Josh show. Welcome to the XJ Talk Show. Tony and Josh show is the other show that Josh and I do. And I was just about to tell Josh, who's on the I guess, line, so to speak, here with me, that last week's Tony and Josh show, I screwed up the audio input on the encoder, and I was streaming the audio from my headset with a boom mic, which was about 4 feet from my head. So nobody heard anything on the live show except my voice at a distance.
Oh, no.
Now, the podcast portion of it was recorded just fine. So so we have a good podcast audio, but no video. Because I was going to sync up the audio and video from the two pieces that I had. And even though they're both digital, something is going on that it makes the video gets out of sync with the audio. So one or both are not exactly synchronized time slice wise. It gets a little off. So once I spent an hour, I found out those two things, and I said, well, screw that, we're not having a video this week. Well, we're going to get started here in a second. I was doing a quick interview with Matt in Colorado on his wheeling trip, so was just putting that together real quick. Hey guys, we've got Matt. There we go. Oh, and I got to get the intro. $17A, right?
Yes, sir.
We do have the audio correct this week, though.
Great.
Saturday was a movie day for me. I haven't watched a bunch of movies in a long time. Using Amazon Prime, I watched what was it, Olympus Down or something?
Oh, yeah. Where the White House gets taken over or blown up or something.
Yep. And then I saw
Olympus Has Fallen.
Olympus Has Fallen. And then I saw the final Harry Potter movie, which I must say was much better than the first half of this being the second half. And then I saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger, recent Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's a sheriff in a small border town where this convict is driving a ultra high speed Corvette trying to get to Mexico. So it was a movie day. I wound up with a kind of a headache, but more of a neck ache from not getting up and moving around, just sitting still for a long time. So we're just doing some final touch-ups. Josh has been gone to the Rubicon and got back early this morning. So as you can well imagine, he is getting balanced, getting his life back in balance. No pun intended from the off-road, off-camper stuff I'm sure you were doing. Jim says boo in the comments there on YouTube Live events.
Okay, I think I am probably about as prepared as I'm going to be.
Okie dokie. Episode 93, just 7 away.
I know.
After this one. Okay. And I figure we'll do just kind of an impromptu Jeep tips tonight. Talk about some of the things I've got lined up for my Jeep. Some stuff that I'm doing with the TJ, and I don't know if you have anything to talk about that happened on the trail with anybody's rig that you might want to share.
Actually, I'll share some of the carnage. I'll tease the carnage in my story, and then we'll go into it and how we dealt with it on the trail in the Jeep Tip segment. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna cue it up and play. Oh, and let's see. I do have Matt's interview. Look okay?
What's that?
Just put in Matt's interview and the Jeep tips on the notes.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. I pressed the button. It's still blinking.
Now.
Breaking news from the XJ Talk Show News Desk. Buildings are melting cars everywhere. Is yours next? Find out right after this.
Hey, stud. It's time for the XJ Talk Show. Now, here's my two favorite boys, Tony and Josh.
Hey, this is Tony from the XJ Talk Show. I almost messed up and said the wrong thing, Josh.
It'll happen. And boy, I imagine tonight I'm going to have a few slip-ups. Well, as you can guess, I'm Josh from the XJ Talk Show and xjtalk.com. You can also find me as NW99XJ or Northwest 99XJ.
Yep, and I'm Motorroy on xjtalk.com, also known as the engineer, because I don't actually take my Jeep off-road. I just work on it all the time. And Josh is the off-road guy, and I'm the engineering guy, apparently, from one of our call-ins.
Hey, you'll get your time behind the scenes soon enough.
Yeah, well, if with Matt going off-road and then you heading off this past I don't say weekend, I guess long weekend, going off-road, it just makes me want to get out there, even though I might bend something. I don't like bending things, Josh. I just don't. Sorry, guys, if that's the badge of honor that you guys like. I have just never got into the thing of I want to bend my rig.
Yeah, that's why I've built my so-called 52-ton steering setup.
56.
56.
I'm going to change it on you every time you say it. Oh, by the way, since you're tired, I guess we should tell our YouTube live events viewers that tonight might be an excellent time to have that drinking game for every time Josh says Boughton.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have a few slip-ups. I can guarantee it. I'm already feeling it coming. So, yeah, you guys will have a good time tonight.
Well, if you like, I can talk longer. You can catch a couple of naps, while I'm reminiscing about, beating something up with a hammer on the Jeep. But anyway, if you guys haven't been here before, what we do is we talk about Jeeps. And I often forget to mention both Josh and I are Jeep Cherokee owners. So we do a Jeep Cherokee show because we love our Cherokees. Sometimes we hate them. Most of the time we love them. It's a love-hate relationship. If you have one, you know what we're talking about. And we are real Jeep people, real Jeep owners. And I believe it or not, I have been off-road in mine on more than one occasion. Josh more so than me, definitely. So we got a few things coming up tonight. We're going to have a little what Josh and I call chit chat, where we just kind of talk about what's going on in our Jeep lives, sometimes just our lives in general. And then we're going to have some voicemails that people have called in and left for us. We really appreciate that viewer involvement. And then we're going to do a little This Week in Jeep, where Jeep news that's going on. It seems like there's a lot of recall news, and there's also some off and on Cherokee 2014 Cherokee news. I don't think we have any of that tonight, but we've been following the 2014 Cherokee quite a bit and doing a lot of pissing and moaning about it. And we're going to have a quick interview with Matt. He's in Colorado currently in his 97 XJ, and we recorded a quick interview right before the show. So we're going to have that, and then we're going to finish up with some Jeep tips.
Sounds like a jam-packed Tony. Yeah, there we go. Jam-packed show, Tony. And sure, we're going to have a great time tonight.
Yep, absolutely. We always do, as far as everybody knows. All right, Josh, let's get into it.
Oh, boy, here we go. So as Tony mentioned, I've been out at the Rubicon Trail. It's a world-renowned, phenomenal trail system down in not quite Southern California, but down in California towards Nevada, just south of Lake Tahoe. About 3 hours or so outside of Sacramento. Last little bit of civilization as you head up the hill is a little town called Placerville, and I ended up going in and out of there a few times throughout the week that I was there. Very interesting trip. Started off with a bad omen, so to speak. We barely even made it out of the Portland metro area when we had a bearing seize up on the trailer, and it was a smoke show on the freeway and a mad dash to the shoulder. Where luckily we had already met up with another guy that was going down with us. He was right behind us and happened to pull in right behind us as well on the shoulder. And we were able to jack up the trailer with the Jeep still on it. And not my Jeep. Folks, I didn't take my Jeep this trip. Some things came up and I just it was best in my best intentions to leave it at home. So anyways, this Jeep stayed on the trailer. We jacked up the trailer, got one of the wheels off to discover that the entire hub bearing on the trailer on that one axle had just completely disintegrated. So it was a shoot to the smartphone and find out if there's a place local that can take care of us. And I stayed behind with the vehicles, and the rest of the team headed out. And within about 2 hours, we had a new bearing, a new hub pressed into the new bearing pressed into the hub back onto the trailer, the wheel back on, and we were back on the road. So it took us about 13, 14 hours to get down there from my area up here in the Northwest. And we made good time, only stopped a few times for gas and for food. And pulled into camp about midnight or so and set up camp real quick and had some chit chat for a moment. And then it was straight off to bed because we had to get up the next morning quite early and hit the trail. Now, for those of you who don't know, usually the goal for the Rubicon is to get in deep enough to get a decent camp spot. And our goal was to make it to Buck Lake. We set in down the Ice House Road. That's where our base camp was. Set off into the slabs where it's just gigantic granite slab formations, which is just phenomenal. It's breathtaking if you've never seen anything like that before, and seeing it for the first time was kind of surreal. But we get there, and a couple guys had some problems getting up past Gatekeeper, And that was kind of like the first main obstacle you hit on the trail. And as we came in through that, one guy almost got to the point where he was near that point of where if he went any further, there's a good chance he's hitting that point where it could flop. And so it was, quick dash. Somebody got over onto the bumper and kind of held his corner down while he navigated up onto this obstacle. We made it out onto the slabs, and the guy who I was with has an extremely built CJ7, a custom Dana 60 in the rear, an extremely overbuilt 44 in the front, 37s around, Grizzly locker in the rear, ARB up front. It's caged up, it's armored up. It's a very impressive vehicle and very, very capable. Well, the Dana 60 that he put in there is somewhat new. And when he did that, he was going from a 44 to the 60 with a third member. And the third member is a little bit shorter and has a shorter yoke than the 44 he had in there before. And this posed a problem with the driveline. The driveline he had in there didn't have a whole lot of spline engagement on the slip. So when we climbed up this one shelf and started getting the back end completely drooped down, it ended up being only about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of spline engagement on the slip on the slip of the drive shaft. He didn't know this at the time, which we then found out quite quickly when the entire driveline grenaded on us. It wasn't the U-joints. That's something that you can repair fairly easy on the trail. No, this was obviously a game ender. So it was break out the tools, pull the driveline down. That's the one thing he didn't have a spare for. Well, actually, one of two things, but I'll get to that later. We blimped our way back into town or back into camp, and we had a ham on hand. One of our guys, we were 6 guys in our group, and 2 CJs, a CJ5, a CJ7, an LJ, a TJ, an FJ Cruiser. That guy was kind of interesting to watch. And we had a Cherokee there as well. So one of the guys the guy with the LJ, he's a ham operator. So we got a telephone link set up and got a hold of a driveline shop down just outside of Placerville, whatever, and ADCO drivelines. So if you're ever on the Rubicon and you end up having some driveline issues, that's the place to go. A guy named Ken there really took care of us, really helped us out. Problem was it took 24 hours for us to get a new driveline. Oh, no. So we had no choice but to stay in camp. Well, the issue was that everybody else had all of our food, had 90% of our camping gear, and we were left pretty much stranded. So it was luckily enough we had access to the emergency key to one of the guys' tow rigs, which had a camper top on the back of it. So we spent the night in that with a makeshift dinner, and woke up the next morning with a makeshift breakfast. Quickly got the drive shaft, got that put in, and we were back on the trail. And this would be Thursday morning, or actually Thursday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. Got back on the trail. Made pretty good time. Did a lot of the bypasses and caught up with everybody just past Buck Lake. And there's a dam there that we passed everybody at. We continued up to I think Old Sluice, or Big Sluice, rather. We continued up to Big Sluice, turned around, came back, and then camped out at Buck Lake, which was absolutely remarkable. The area is just pristine and just absolutely surreal, beautiful. Managed to take a dip in the water there, which was well deserved after, at this point, 3 days of not seeing a shower and a lot of dust. And that was great. So many stars at night. You can see the Milky Way galaxy. I sat up on the dam that night for a little while, just kind of taking in the stars. The water was like glass, and all the stars were reflecting off the water. It was just absolutely surreal being there. It was awesome. I woke up the next morning and headed out bright and early. Went up to True Big Old Sluice and Little Sluice and Walker Hill Soup Bowl. We had some issues. One of the guys broke a hub. We didn't have a repair or a replacement, so it was around lunchtime where we dismantled the hub and figured out. I'll go through this in our Jeep Tit segment of how we determined what was going on with the front end when we heard this loud snap, and through a visual inspection, couldn't really tell what was going on. So another guy had a control arm got sheared off, the control arm mount got sheared off the axle. We had some exhaust leak issues because of that. I'll tell you guys how we dealt with that. Some emergency repairs on the trail in our Jeep Tip segment later on. Let's see what else. We had a flop in the group, and it was actually something kind of funny. Normally, you think of a flop and you think, "Oh man, that's some serious stuff. That's bad news." Well, he wasn't on an obstacle per se. It wasn't on a trail. In fact, it was on a rock. He was climbing up on it for a photo op, and got a little too far and reached that point, that fulcrum point where, all it takes is for you to breathe wrong and the Jeep tips over. And that's what happened. He ended up flopping his Jeep for the sake of a photograph. So, unfortunately, that was in a part of the day that we were coming back from our excursion out and back. So, it was very interesting. Once we had a control arm break off, that was pretty much it for the trip. That was Friday, and we managed to limp our way back to camp. Sent the rest of the group ahead, and we ended up catching up to them about Gatekeeper. We were, I mean, I was hiking the whole rest of the Rubicon Trail, just spotting the guys, making sure they can get through everything. We were doing 2 miles an hour. And with basically a 3-link setup in the front that really wasn't holding up very well, and a drive line that was chewing away at the exhaust and other things, we were lucky to get out of there under our own power, so to speak. So we finally get back to camp, caught up with the people, the rest of our group out at Gatekeeper, and they had some issues. One of the guy with the Cherokee ended up getting stuck, having to get yanked, bent up his tie rod pretty good. I was not able to drive it back to camp. So he ended up grabbing his trailer and coming back. He at least got to the staging area, which was, good enough, so to speak. So, but out of our 6 rigs, I think 2 managed to make it out of the trail unscathed. 3 made it out under their own power, but everybody else pretty much got some kind of carnage or another. So it was got back into camp late Saturday night. Just ended up trailering up the rigs, pitching a quick tent and crashing, and wake up the next morning and head out for our what ended up being a 16-hour trip for me to get home from the Rubicon. So it was very long drive, a long day Saturday night. I didn't get home until about 2:30 this morning, and I'm beat. I've got a screaming headache from the I don't know if it's atmospheric change or whatever. I mean, I was up, fairly decent elevation for several days, and now I'm, back here in the Northwest where it's extremely humid. The air is a lot more thick, and I'm apparently having a hard time adjusting back. So I very much miss the Rubicon. I can't wait to go back, and it's going to be an annual trip for me. But I'm not going to be able to go back until 2015 because next year is going to be Moab.
So let me ask you this. I know that we've done a lot of talking about some of the This Week in Jeep that you've reported on past shows, and also too with the 2014 Jeep Cherokee, I guess Trailhawk edition being out on the Rubicon. We've talked about the Rubicon being basically a big mall parking lot now, so that anybody could drive on it. Now you've actually been there. We've made those inferences, tongue in cheek, of course, but somewhat serious. What were the trails like?
So, very good question, Tony. Little Sluice is a very, very popular destination point of the Rubicon Trail, and is when a lot of people think of Rubicon, they think of Little Sluice. And this is I wouldn't call it a hill climb, but it is definitely a decent grade of elevation as you head up the trail. And it was, you have a sharp wall on your left side as you go up, and some rolling granite formations on your right side. And so you're kind of, I wouldn't call it a V-notch, but in sort of this inside this mini canyon almost. And excuse me, it was I guess they did a lot of blasting on it here recently to clean it up, to adjust the trail for maintenance, whatever. And a lot of people were saying that it made it way too easy. Well, I guess over the last several months, things have kind of gotten chewed up and moved around, and it's become quite a bit more difficult now. And it's gotten some of its reputation back. Now, with that, I saw a brand spanking new four-door Wrangler. I think, I could still see the residue of the tape from the window sticker on it. It was so new. Trying to go up Little Sluice. And this was a perfect demonstration of inexperienced driving and poor spotting, because he was getting put into these positions that I would personally never put another vehicle. Excuse me. Especially one that really wasn't set up. Now, he had some armor. He was locked up front and rear, and he probably had 32s. But there was one particular line. For his vehicle, there was one and only one line that he should have been on. And they kept trying to take him over here and over there and everywhere he shouldn't have been, and end up finally backing this guy out after probably 15, 20 minutes of just thrashing the underside of his rib to take a bypass.
Was it a Rubicon? Did you see the Rubicon emblems on the side?
I can't remember now. I think I snapped a couple pictures, and but I can't remember exactly. One thing I did recall that was very interesting was the rock rails that he had were sort of integrated into the Jeep. It was very interesting. I've never quite seen anything like that other than, full on rocker replacements, which these sort of mirrored in a way. I thought for sure when he came down on a rock at one point in time, I thought for sure I was going to see the side of this Jeep cave in. But it didn't. It held up. And so he had some sort of, maybe it was a factory option of some kind or another. I don't know. But it was the most low profile set of rock rails I have ever seen. And it mocked full rocker replacements. So I can't imagine a Jeep that new having something like that done to it. But it very well could have. But it was very interesting to watch him and his group head up through this. We ended up just walking right up through it, no problem, because we apparently had more experience, or I don't know what it was. We didn't have any problems with it. It was a very, very easy trail for the most part. Now, with that, the Cherokee ended up bypassing it because of the wheelbase. The Little Sluice definitely poses a problem to the longer wheelbases, as does the Big Sluice. Now, Big Sluice is sort of the big brother to Little Sluice, and that is you are in a canyon, and it is nothing but rocks, and it is a very steep elevation change, and it is known for taking out windshields, for taking out A-pillars or C-pillars. It is known for taking out doors, and we played in there for probably the better half of Friday afternoon. It was extreme trail. Only 2 rigs attempted it, and one of which suffered the hub break. The other one ended up getting beat up pretty good, and there was winching involved all throughout the whole trip. A lot of winching. So how the 2014 Cherokee made it through all of this, I would imagine would be through most of the bypasses. Now, you can only bypass so much of the Rubicon. There are places you have to wheel. It's plain and simply, you have to hit the trail. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. The obstacles are there. You have to go over them. If you are locked and you have at least 32-inch tires and at least 3 to 4 inches of lift, you can probably make it through one end of the Rubicon to the other, bypassing as much as you possibly can. Now, that's, in my mind, and in my opinion, not really doing the Rubicon. And because of our setback, we didn't make it up to Observation Point or Cadillac Hill. We didn't even see Rubicon Springs, where the Jeeper Jamboree is held every year. So as far as we made it out with Big Sluice, that was approximately 6 miles in 3 days. So it gives you an idea of how long it takes to really run the Rubicon, and how much preparation and skill and difficulty goes into all this. It is a world-class trail. If I had to sum it up in 2 words, I'd call the Rubicon world-class.
So I guess what you're saying is that if the 2014 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk Edition made any part of the Rubicon, then it has to be pretty well trail capable, trail rated capable.
Skid plates, I would imagine, played a huge part of that Jeep making it through the trail. The rocks there are very unique. The kind of rock we have here in the Northwest is nothing like what you see out on the Rubicon, and it's jagged, it's rough, it grabs metal. When you have a skid plate underneath and you drag it over some of these rocks, you are not just putting a scratch in it, you are leaving metal behind. And it is very, very interesting rock to wheel on because you can find slick spots where you'll have super duper sandpaper-esque type of traction at one point, and all of a sudden you'll get to a point in the rock formation where it becomes smooth. And you essentially lose traction. You can slide. It is by far probably some of the most technical wheeling I have ever experienced. We have some very technical trails up here in the Northwest, but this is on an entirely different kind of caliber. And it was very, very special to me to experience this because it really opened my eyes to sort of what a vehicle needs to go through this kind of world-class trail system.
Well, any of the experience that you had there, was there anything that pointed out to you what you want to do to your rig before you attempt it?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest benefits or benefiting factors is going to be one, preparation. It was a joke amongst our group. Some of the guys came in overpacked. Like, holy cow, did you bring the whole garage and the whole refrigerator and everything else like this?
That would be me.
I'm the same. I'm kind of the same way. Better, plan for the worst, but hope for the best. Now, since I wasn't driving, I had to, I'm tagging along, so to speak. I was trying to be as frugal as I possibly could with my packing. So I had a frame pack. I had an old frame pack that I strapped a chair to. I mean, a little foldable camp chair to, a sleeping bag, a sleeping bag, and a tent. And then, a few days of clothes and some, sanitary wipes, a couple rolls of toilet paper, of course, some lighting gear, a couple flashlights, a headlamp, and I had a little ammo box full of things like, some medications, some aspirin, some ibuprofen, some vitamins, some acids, things like that, Q-tips, toothpaste, toothbrush, some of the essentials, a couple cooking utensils, and I had a small little miniature cooking pot that I threw in into the backpack as well. So, I had just the bare essentials, so to speak, and that took up the entire frame pack, which I actually ended up weighing quite a bit when everything was all said and done. And on top of that, you add a 100-quart cooler with 4 days worth of meals in it, and enough to go around just in case, and beverages too. Holy cow, did we go through the water? It was so dusty out there. I came back from the Rubicon so filthy dirty. I have never been that dirty in my entire life. It was like taking a mud bath when I finally got home and was able to shower. Probably one of the best showers I've had in my life. But I can't believe how filthy and dirty you get out there. I mean, sunscreen is critical. But getting back to your question, as far as vehicle preparation, actually being prepared for the worst is probably the biggest thing. Having what you need to fix, something on the trail in case it breaks. And primarily that's going to be axles and drive lines, U-joints. Those are going to be the most critical. Anything else outside of that is just sort of over preparation. Wouldn't hurt, but remember you're taking up space and weight as well. In my personal rig, I'm definitely going to need or want an oil pan skid plate for the Rubicon. I'm definitely going to want to protect my transfer case a little bit better. I'm definitely going to want to re-gear. Right now, my stock 355s on 33 1250s would not cut it, in my mind. I would need to, it would just add a lot more difficulty because I would have to be loading up the brake and bringing up the RPMs to drop the wheels, the tire speed to get that crawl ratio. Whereas if I was running 456s or even 488s, then I would have that deeper crawl ratio to really benefit me in a lot of the type of wheeling that is at the Rubicon. So other than that, honestly, I think that my Jeep could have made 90% of what was ran in our group. So now, I'm very, very confident that if I were to have taken it there in the condition that it was, that I would have done just fine.
Now, yeah, I know we get into that I won't say downward spiral, but that spiral of what can we do to make things better? What can we do to make things perfect, where we can get through and not have a bunch of damage? And then that's what I was referring to. I'm sure your rig would make it as it is, but now there is a front skid, a factory front skid that is rather substantial, and I just put it back on my rig. You mentioned a oil pan skid. Do you need both, you think?
No, I don't think so. And in fact, the factory skid plate that kind of goes in front of the steering, which I don't even think would work in my situation with my steering setup now. It could probably be modified to work, but is it worth it? Is it even needed? Honestly, I don't think so. If you are running stock steering, or even a ZJ upgrade, I would say the factory front skid plate is a good option for you. If you've got a steering setup like I do, with the quarter-inch wall DOM tubing, 1-ton tie rod ends, or Heims, or you're over the knuckle with some big bars, I would say you're probably fine. Honestly, the front skid plate is just it's not gonna help you out all that much.
So I guess what I was asking was, could you do without the oil pan skid if you had the front factory skid? But from what I think I'm hearing is that you would you could have or not, depending on if it worked or not, the front skid, but what you really want is an oil pan skid. It sounds like an oil pan skid would be what would be beneficial out on the Rubicon Trail.
Absolutely, and here's why: is because tire placement is going to be crucial for this kind of a trail system. So, and this is why it takes 3 days to go 6 miles, and because you're very much paying attention to where your tires are going, where you're putting the vehicle, and how the weight transfer is going to affect your vehicle position. Because oftentimes what happens is you'll find some of those slick spots, or you don't quite put your tire where you wanted it to, or the back end doesn't quite, end up where you really wanted it to, and you're in a position to where you start to slide off of an obstacle, or you start to slide out of your line or off of your line. And this is where you then end up finding the rocks with the underside of your vehicle and not with your tires. And the most exposed critical part is the oil pan at this point. I mean, one of the guys put a huge set of dents in his oil pan. Probably reduced its capacity by a quart or more. Yeah, no, seriously, and shaved it. I'm surprised it doesn't have a hole in it, honestly. So that was one of the things that made me realize. A lot of the guys I wheel with don't have oil pan skid plates, but for the Rubicon, unless you're running 37s, 38s, or bigger, I would say a Cherokee on 33s or 35s, an oil pan skid plate is probably a really good idea for the Rubicon.
And sliders are just a given. You got to have sliders.
Yeah, no. Bare minimum, absolutely essential. There's no way that you're going to make it through the Rubicon without sliders. Now, there's just, go ahead.
I was just going to say, now, what about mid skids? I've been looking at the JCR skid plate that actually attaches to the front and over the factory cross member that gives your transfer case protection, but goes from one side of the unibody rail to the other side. I really like that, and from what you're talking about, it sounds like that would be something that would be very beneficial with the rocks coming up with no telling where. If I understand what you're saying correctly, because of the wheel placement, you may not have the luxury of choosing what jagged rocks you're going to come down on. Basically where underneath your vehicle. So the more protection underneath, the easier it makes for you to take the proper line.
Or at least stay on the proper line. Because oftentimes your front will be on the line and your back will lose traction, and you will pivot off to one side slightly. And now you are angled off of your line. You want it to be pointed that way because the next rock that you want to hit is that way. Well, now you're pointed 30 degrees off, and you have to figure out how to correct to get back to where you wanted to go for the line that you wanted to be on. Now, your options are either to drag yourself over the obstacle you're now high centered on, or figure out how to get yourself into a different line. Gotcha. And oftentimes it's a 50-50, which it doesn't matter which way you go. Something's going to happen. Either you're going to get having to pivot on a rock rail, or having to drag yourself over something via skid, or just throttle out and hope for the best, which several of our guys end up having to do several times, just because there was really no alternative. There's a lot of faces, a lot of ledges that have to be dealt with, and this is where drivetrain components really come into risk. So it doesn't matter how much armor you have to climb this face if you're going to go any further. And having a strong drivetrain is really going to be crucial in that instance. And this is where preparation comes in, to where, okay, let's say you're out there with a Dana 35 and you really bounce hard trying to get up this face and you snap an axle. Well, you better have a replacement and figure out how to get up that under winch power or through a different line versus throttling and bouncing your way up it.
Right. Wow. So I can see how this would be very challenging, and also to a badge of courage whenever you get through there, especially if you don't have any damage, which sounds like it might be one of those situations where you're going to have some no matter what.
Yeah, everybody made it out there with some degree of scratches, dings, scrapes, something. Even the tallest rig in our group with 37s and tube fenders all the way around, massive rock rails, frame tie-ins with everything, narrowed, tubbed. He was probably the most built, and even his quarter panel on one side got a couple little chew marks on it. Virtually every tube fender had some scrapes and scratches on it. The guy with the LJ, probably the worst of it all. Both front fenders crushed. I think he managed to keep both tail lights. I think one of them got a crack in it. Sheared off the control arm mount on the front. Got a hole inside the collector of the header. Coming down on one side. When that control arm went, I think it shifted the axle, which moved the front drive line, which then the front that U-joint, the yoke on the front drive line at the front axle chewed into the exhaust manifold at the collector where it comes down. It's a hole so big you could put your hand into his exhaust. It's just massive carnage all the way around. And it's just sometimes you hit that unforeseen where you're trying to climb an obstacle and something gives way. And now it could have been a small amount of damage that you never would have seen unless you got under there with a magnifying glass from your last wheeling trip.
Right.
And just this level of trail is so difficult that it really, really very quickly will let you know where the weak point is in your build.
I bet. Wow.
Now,
interesting.
That being said, I cannot wait to go back, just strictly for the scenery, if nothing else, because we have nothing like that out here in the Northwest. Now we have sprawling hillsides and canyons and ravines and lots of trees and beautiful vistas and great views here as well. Just nothing quite to this caliber, and it was definitely a very unique experience that I can't wait to have again.
Great story, Josh. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, absolutely.
Now, I neglected to mention this last week, and I believe as of today, the recording of this podcast, there are only 8 days left. But we have there's over the past 5 years, people have asked about some XJ Talk T-shirts, and we talked about it. We came up with the majority of people like the black T-shirts. I'm not a big black shirt fan. dandruff and fat boy and high humidity and high heat, black is not my favorite color. But we did find a way that we could order up some T-shirts, not have to pay for them up front, not have to guess what sizes everybody would need. And it actually worked out really well from the standpoint of no upfront money necessary, no chances of a bunch of product being left on the shelf, so to speak. You may have heard this because I've seen several celebrities using it. Stomper, the rebuilding of Stomper, which is the Jeep JK that was totaled in Moore, Oklahoma, the F5 tornado. There was a prior interview that we had here on the show. They started up this, they used this thing called booster.com, which I believe is a website that Custom Ink has put up. And basically, they set it up where you could buy the Stomper T-shirts. Well, I went and checked it out to see how it would work out for XJ Talk, and it looked pretty good. So I set it up. It didn't cost me anything to do it. Just set it up with some black T-shirts, the XJ Talk logo. If you go over to www.booster.com, booster like if it was a Little League booster or a fire department, volunteer fire department booster where they were raising money, booster.com/XJ Talk, you'll see, you can see the T-shirts, both front and back, and get a good idea about what the shirt looks like. You can order them in a multitude of sizes, really a bunch of different sizes. Only that one design, though, and it's a black T-shirt. It's got the full-color XJ Talk logo. The T-shirts are $25 a piece, and there is a flat $5 shipping. Now, keep in mind, this is all through booster.com. It's not something that I have a stack of T-shirts here, and I'll be sending them out to you or anything. But the downside to this is the shirts are only available for 30 days. So that means that we've already gone through about 22 days of having these T-shirts available for people to purchase. So 30 days, we have to sell at least 20 or have at least 20 orders. So 20 individual shirts. So if somebody wanted to buy 2 shirts, that would be considered, 2 orders. Anyway, so we're trying to get to 20 because at 20 means they're actually going to print and ship the shirts. If we don't hit 20, then they're not going to. They'll just refund your money. So if you're interested in a XJ Talk T-shirt, go over to www.booster.com/XJ Talk. Have a look, purchase. If it doesn't hit 20, you will receive a refund. The shirts are $25 with a flat $5 shipping. I believe that is only in the United States shipping because I have purchased one T-shirt for Ed in Holland, which he's not going to get if we don't sell 20 of these T-shirts. So it's not going to be anything that you're going to lose on. You'll either get a shirt for $25 or you won't. And keep in mind we also have XJ Talk hats, not through booster.com, but we have them here. So you can go to the click on store on the navigation tab, and it'll take you there, and you can buy a hat. You will be completely decked out in XJ Talk gear if you so desire.
Well, that sounds really cool, and I'm sure we've got a thread up where people can see pictures of what these things are going to look like.
Yes.
Very good. Well, I'm excited, Tony, and you can count on me getting at least one, and I hope you guys pick up at least 1 or 2 as well.
Oh, and I did forget to mention, we're halfway to the 20 mark. So we've currently, people have ordered 10 T-shirts. So 8 days left. We need to get 10 more T-shirts sold. Otherwise, they are not going to fulfill the order.
And you know what, folks? I mean, we're into September now. That means, we're just a few months away from Christmas season and shopping, that holiday season, folks. This will make a great Christmas present.
This would make a great, what the hell is this? Yeah. Christmas present.
Hey, no regifting now.
So let's get over to our voicemails, Josh. We've got two voicemails tonight. One from Nikki G and another from a new caller.
Very good.
Hey, this is Tony.
And this is Josh from the XJ Talk Show. We want to thank you for calling our 24/7 voice line.
Yes, we do. Just leave your first name and your question or comment.
There's no guarantee, but we may play your message on the podcast.
Oh, and don't worry about keeping it clean. We'll take care of that.
Now it's your turn to speak at the beep.
Hi, this is Earl, a.k.a. Captain Tuna. This is the first time I've seen you guys live. I'm enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. Have a good day.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and I just want to say I really like the YouTube Live, that it makes the podcast a lot more accessible to me, a lot more convenient. I hope everybody else feels the same way. It's not just me. And I'd like to wish Josh a safe trip on the Rubicon, but by the time he hears this, he'll probably be back and in a vegetative, zombie-like state. And I know I would be after all that driving. So got a few questions about the Jeep this week. I heard all this talk about lockers and stuff, and I didn't really know what they were, what they're all about. But I found a good deal on Craigslist on a set of lockers. So I bought it, installed it in the front axle of the Jeep, and I'm all finished, and everything went pretty easy. But I'm looking at it, and there's not enough room for a pair of gym shoes in there, let alone anything else. So what good is a locker if you can't use it to store stuff? And another question I have, is it just me? Does Canadian bacon taste a lot like ham? All right, guys, I'll chat at you later, and you guys have a good one. Bye.
Well, thanks a lot, Nikki G, and also to I've forgotten Captain Tuna. Captain Tuna. Thanks a lot for those calls. We really appreciate it. And if you'd like to join in with our voicemails, please feel free to call our 24-hour by 7-day-a-week voicemail line. Nobody will answer the phone. No phone will even ring, so you can call any day, any time. And this thing will record your message up to like 3 minutes, I believe. But that number is 530-675-4102. 530-675-4102. And if you still didn't get it, rewind the podcast.
Yeah, big thanks out there, Nikki G. And thanks for relating, man. I am in definitely a bit of a zombie state after all those road miles. And big thanks to Captain Tuna. Those are kind words, and glad both of you guys, Nikki and Captain Tuna, are benefiting from our switch over from Ustream over to YouTube.
The XJ Talk Show is now available on iTunes. Subscribe and leave a review. Also, be sure to give us a 5-star rating.
I want to remind you guys that we haven't done it here in the past several shows, but we will be coming back to our Amazon You Bought What segments here probably next show. And I say last several shows, the last 2 shows after our summer break, Josh. But if you're buying things through Amazon, please remember to go over to xjtalk.com or xjtalkshow.com. Click on the Amazon banner before you go and make your purchase, because you'll get the same product that you were going to get, the same price you were going to pay, and the XJ Talk Show and xjtalk.com will get a few cents, a few percentage points off that sale. So you'll help support the site and the show with those purchases.
And be sure to tell a friend if you know anybody who's about to make an online purchase. Have them do it through Amazon.com, and make sure they click on the XJ Talk Show link before they do anything.
This Week in Jeep.
5 million Jeeps. That's right. I said 5 million with a B. The 5 millionth vehicle built at Chrysler Group's North Assembly Plant in Detroit was a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland that had been produced in right around mid-August or so. The first model built there back in January 1992 was also a Grand Cherokee. Pretty interesting. From 1992 to 2013, it's quite a span right there. And the first and the last Cherokee to roll off the line were both Grand Cherokees. Now, I know we're all Cherokee fans here, but it's interesting that, the big brothers were sort of staking their claim to fame there. Now, last October, Chrysler added 1,100 new employees at this 3 million square foot facility to keep up with the growing demand for the Grand Cherokee. And Jeep announced earlier this week, in fact, that the commemorative vehicle, this 5 millionth Grand Cherokee, the 5 millionth vehicle to roll off of this thing, will be donated to the USO. In my mind, or in my opinion, that those are high marks going to Jeep and Chrysler for that. Kudos. Well, what else we got here? I mentioned on another show about the Jeep recalls, but Jeep is also planning on some big stuff coming up here in the next couple of years. It has been announced there's going to be 2 more additions to the Jeep name badge line. Now, they've got some tweaks and stuff they're going to do with the current lineup. There's going to be some fresh new looks coming up to the whole lineup, including, some are saying, the potential for a Jeep pickup. So we may actually see a 2016 Comanche. Geez, I hope that doesn't look anything like the 2014 Cherokee.
Please, God.
Yes, please, no. A new subcompact is yet unnamed. It's going to be built in Italy along with the Fiat 500X, and Jeep expects to sell about 150,000 of these worldwide. Now, nobody knows what the thing looks like. They say it's going to be a Jeep. They say it's going to be subcompact. To me, both of those things do not really go hand in hand. The Compass is going to get a little bit of a makeover. It's going to get a new 6-speed transmission, but the vehicle will largely stay put pretty much as it is until Jeep decides whether or not the Compass or the Patriot survive in 2015. So we don't know which way that's going to go. The Patriot, if it does make it, is going to get that 6-speed automatic transmission. It's going to help power the vehicle. I guess they might look at a new engine if they decide to keep it. If they decide to go with the Compass and not the Patriot, there will be a limited number of Patriots produced. They'll get a limited run version, so to speak. The Wrangler will, of course, be not escaping this revamp. It will re-engineer the Wrangler completely, properly for 2016, it's saying. Styling will likely change a little, but the Wrangler will still get its typical look. It will also get an 8-speed transmission, and it is official, an optional diesel engine. We're glad to see that. I've rattled off the specs on that in other shows. It's going to shed pounds. They're going to lighten that thing up quite a bit, and they're talking about using the Wrangler frame for the pickup if they decide to actually produce one. Now, as we all know, they've produced a Cherokee, and well, apparently that's not going away because they're already planning on what kind of changes are going to happen in 2016 for this thing. And well, we don't know what that's going to be yet. They just have announced that it's going to carry on through 2015 and through 2016, and have some impressive changes coming up, which I'm really not holding my breath for. The Grand Cherokee, of course, the flagship SUV, was re-engineered back in 2014 with an optional 3-liter diesel engine and 8-speed transmission, which is going to carry over through the next couple of years as well. But in 2016, they're saying they're going to revamp it and give it a whole new overhaul. And, of course, the second new badge name that is coming to Jeep in 2016. And this is going to be very good news for a lot of people out there. Well, it might be mixed news of you Waggy lovers. That's right. A Grand Wagoneer is going to come out in 2016. Development has already started of the 7-passenger Grand Wagoneer. It's been delayed 2 years so far for, I guess, some other launches. And it's going to basically replace the Dodge Durango. So we're going to see what happens with that. The Grand Wagoneer to be coming out in 2016. And as I mentioned with you guys about some recalls on the 2014 Cherokee that's, well, I don't even know if it's in showrooms yet. But this whole recall has been kept pretty tight under wraps. I did a lot of digging and stuff and got the gist of it all. And it's not really a mechanical issue. Apparently, it seems to be more of a software issue. You imagine a Jeep as ugly as that is, well, it's going to be a lot of drive-by-wire, and there's going to be a lot of software and computer stuff going on behind the scenes. Well, I guess this brand spanking new 9-speed transmission they're trying to shoehorn into this thing is having a hard time engaging into 8th and 9th gears when it's equipped with this 2.4-liter Tiger Shark engine. Now, this is all because the engine is forced to rev at quite a low speed when it's in its highest gear, which also just so happens to be way short of the 4-cylinders power band. Either way, Chrysler seems to be working around the clock to remedy this yet latest in a laundry list of issues that have been going on with this thing pre-launch. So we'll see what happens with that, and that is our news, folks.
Wow. So would this technically be a recall for a Jeep or for a vehicle that has not been released yet?
Well, because I understand that orders have been made and numbers have been promised to showrooms, dealers around the nation, around the world. Apparently, they have. I mentioned last a few episodes before we took a break that production had began or was scheduled to begin in September. They were gearing up, and they had already had test vehicles made. The assembly line had been tooled. It was ready to go. They have ran a few test models through it to produce these test rigs. And apparently, after everything's all been put together, they still don't have things right. So essentially, it is a recall because they're having to recall the tooling, the software in this case, make sure that things get right. They had an issue with the headlights back a few months ago. The headlight circuit was like catching on fire or something. This was just a laundry list of things that have happened with this 2014 Cherokee. Honestly, to me, that's writing on the wall, and they should just mothball the whole thing.
Well, I would imagine that there's often these type of issues that we probably don't pay that close attention to, and it is Jeep. I'm sure they will work it out. I think little could be done unless we could get Obama upset with the 2014 Cherokee, that he could do an executive executive order to do something about it, I suppose. But I don't see that happening. I think that the buying public are the ones that are going to have the pull on this one.
Yeah, no, and I guess that the international market is probably going to drive a large portion of the sales of this thing. So it's, that's probably where their focus is going to be, at least initially. I don't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of demand for the Trailhawk because there's nothing about this thing screams off-road.
No. Well, I'm sure there'll be a few people that buy them, ones that aren't true off-roaders, and then others that just want to have something that's new and different. And there will be those that know that this is such a disliked Cherokee and want to have it simply because it's not a popular vehicle. Actually, it probably would wind up being a very good collectible if you wanted to have one and not really drive it and just put it in your garage and just keep it and then sell it, kind of like an Edsel.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see. I don't care for it, but Jeeps are ugly, and this one certainly fits that bill. As you learn its character and learn what it can do and what it can do for you, you get that love and you see the beauty in it. So that's possible. I don't think so. I'm the world's worst about buying into things. I don't like the Jeep Liberties. I still don't. And I always have bad things to say about them. They don't have a front axle. I don't care for it. I wouldn't want one anyway. I always make the statement that I think Volkswagen made a much better looking Beetle than what Jeep did with the Liberty.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just, I don't know. It's so yuppie-fied. Anyway, so I had mentioned at the beginning of the show here that we had a quick impromptu interview with Matt, our other admin on xjtalk.com. He's in Colorado this week doing some trail running around with his wife and his 97 XJ. Hey guys, we've got Matt Smorenberg. You know him as M. Smorenberg on xjtalk.com, and he's off on a wheeling trip, and he thought he would jump in here and give us a quick update about his excitement that he's had. Matt, tell the audience where you are and what you've been up to.
Oh man, just 2 days out in the woods. I'm currently in Ridgway, Colorado, 10 miles, I believe, north of Ouray, which is supposedly the best wheeling in Colorado.
Well, 2 days in the woods. You live in the woods, so what difference does this make?
Hard to breathe, going to run uphill very far.
It's like 11,000 feet, isn't it?
We're at 7.
7,
but I've
okay.
gone as high as 13 so far.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's been a trip, I left, was it Thursday afternoon, drove straight through. I basically met up with a friend from Conroe up here, and we basically hopped in the Jeep and went and hit like 4 trails in one sitting. You know, so I spent, 20-something hours in the car, and then basically grabbed the subway and hit the road. And we hit a trail called, I'm looking it up here. Hoochie Gulch, I guess I can't pronounce it. And that was, moderate. It was really good, lots of great views. Then we were like, let's go ahead and try the Corkscrew and Hurricane Path, which was, I didn't have the book at the time, it was considered extreme. And both of us are, he's in the Toyota truck and I'm in the Jeep, both open, and we're tooling along, it's like washboard rock after washboard rock. Having a blast, and then all of a sudden the rain comes through. And I'll be posting the video that I didn't do of me going through the hardest spot at Hurricane Pass, which it felt like past a 45-degree drop. I'm telling you, you've seen the video. The wipers are going. It's raining. And, we're hitting, I've got spotters, hooting and hollering, just trying to get out of here. I mean, if it wasn't for that light bar towards the end of the evening, we would have never found our way out.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear that light bar came in handy.
Oh, yeah. It just lit up the whole trail. Bob, his name, was in front of me, and he was like, leave it on so I can see.
Oh, I bet you he's going to buy one.
I think he is. He's going to buy one when he gets back. But, we must have hammered through the rest of this extreme trail, which it felt like washboard rock after ravine. We didn't get many pictures because it was dark, rainy, and the wife was just getting beat up in the passenger seat because there's not much to hang on. But it was amazed to see people just pitched a tent, man. They parked where they were, pitched a tent, and that's where they were for the night.
I can see that if it's that difficult to trail, I imagine after a while you get pretty tired and just ready to sit it wherever you are and rest up and hit it the next day. Now, of course, you guys aren't doing that. You're actually in a cabin, right?
I'm in a little bed and breakfast. I don't call something. It's basically a little apartment above a antique store, right smack dab in Ridgeway. Oh my gosh! How do you get your wife to leave that place? Because I know how women are with antique stores. Well, we've already hit a few. It's kind of like we do a day of wheeling and then we do a day of poodling around. So how is that? How do you compare going to the antique store with with off-roading? But more importantly, how does she compare those two things? She'd rather go to the antique store because she's not getting beat up in the Jeep. I think she's whacked her head a few times on the seatbelt. Oh, gee. Buckle up there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you wear your seatbelt full time up here. We took it was a 14-mile trail today, Imogene Pass, which I think I sent you some pictures and you might share them this evening. That was 14 miles and it took us 5 hours. And basically it left Ouray and put us in Telluride. And there's a couple pictures of Black Bear Pass on the other side. And Bob, he did Black Bear Pass. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it again in the Toyota. The turning radius isn't what it should be. He said if you look at it, it drops 3,000 feet in 9/10 of a mile. So it's switchback after switchback. He had to back up 3 times in each switchback. My goodness. I had no idea that it was that tight. Yeah, the pictures don't show it any justice, but it's when you're looking at it from afar, it doesn't look bad, but yeah, no, it's just switchback after switchback. So this wheeling trip, I know you've been wheeling in the 97 XJ in the past. Not, I don't guess this is your first long distance trip in it. But what have you learned on this trip that you need? What changes do you need to make to your XJ for the next wheeling adventure? Man, I don't think I'd change anything right now. It's I had a little issue at 13,000 feet through check engine light of map sensor, low voltage. And I was like, I'm not worried about it. And I just kept on going. But honestly, lockers may help down the road, but everything I've run across is, it's a little rough, but it's great. Well, I guess there is one change, is the keep it in second gear mod with that little second stick, because there's a lot of times where first gear is too much and third gear, you know what I mean? It scoots down the mountain, whereas you can just drop it in first, and second gear would be perfect for some of these 6 to 8 degree, going downhill.
Now I'll remind everybody that you have both disc brakes front and rear, because you did the rear disc brake conversion. I can't remember. Is yours a ZJ conversion or the Liberty conversion?
I would call it a hybrid. It's the ZJ with that Liberty, the brake cables.
Oh yeah.
But primary parts are ZJ.
So how are those brakes holding up for you?
Great. I have not run across any hot spots. But then again, I'm using the transmission to keep it, engine brake.
Yeah. So if you had something to keep you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One thing that you'll find interesting, coming back into town, drop it in third gear, going downhill, it'll hold it at 60 miles an hour, and the coolant goes to 190 degrees. It's kind of a weird feeling.
I bet. Well, it's pretty cool up there too, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've been running 210 the whole time, and you're going down. There may be times that I didn't even touch the gas for 10 minutes because you're just third gear, rolling downhill at 60, keeping it, where you need to be, and the temperature drops.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're basically, it's no power. It's all resistance going all the way down the hill.
Yep,
interesting.
All the way down to 190.
So it would be really interesting to know what the underhood temperatures are if it doesn't cool down because the header isn't heating up too. That would be pretty interesting. Well, Matt, was there anything else you wanted to add? We're actually recording this prior to the live show. So Matt was good enough to jump in here real quick, and I have to wrap it up so I can get the show going. So was there anything you wanted to add for our audience tonight?
I'll just share some of the photos I sent you. Imogene Pass, it was, rock after rock. When you get past the trees, everything changes. It's serious cliffs you look over. And abandoned landmines are pretty cool to see too. Yes. That's our plan. 2 days from now, not tomorrow, day after, to hit the main strip with all the abandoned mines.
Oh, that sounds great.
I don't remember the name of that pass.
Well, that sounds great. And we will have those pictures up available on xjtalk.com and in the appropriate post somewhere.
Okay.
All right, Matt, thanks a lot. And if you get a chance to watch the show tonight, we hope to see you on there. Have a safe trip. And we'll be checking back with you later because you're going to be there through Friday, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, safe trip, man.
All week. All right.
See you later.
Thanks.
How would you like to be a guest on the XJ Talk Show? Do you have an interesting story about your Jeep? Maybe an off-road adventure? Perhaps you're a vendor and want to get the word out about your great products. Send us an email to interviews@xjtalk.com or call and leave a voice or text message at 530-675-4102. 530-675-4102. We look forward to hearing from you. xjtalk.com is where you go when you're not off-road. And now you can go to xjtalk.com when you're off-road too. Using your smartphone, install the Tappa Talk app, then search for XJ Talk. Take XJ Talk with you wherever you go. Jury duty, dinner with your spouse's parents, even, anywhere you need your XJ Talk fix.
xjtalk.com. It's where you go when you're not off-road.
And speaking of Tappa Talk, I recently received some information from those guys indicating that they're going to be going to a free version of their app because I think they're going to be doing a little more commercialization as far as ads and whatnot, instead of trying to sell the app to people. So, none of us like the commercials and the ads that come up on various things, and hopefully they'll still have a paid version so that you won't have to go through that. Now, it's all just hearsay. It's something that they sent me since we run the Tapatalk application on xjtalk.com, also on wranglertalk.com, and you can use that app to access the website, the forums from either a Android or iPhone using it. But so if you're not a Tapatalk user, simply because you didn't want to pay the $1.99 or whatever it is that they want for it right now, keep watching, because I think over the next month or so they're going to be going back to a free version, but I believe this will be a fully functional version.
Got a tip? We do. It's time for Jeep Tips.
Well, hey guys, I've recently had some issue. Well, not myself personally, but had some opportunities to take care of some issues out on the Rubicon Trail. These are some pretty drastic things that go wrong when on the trail of this kind of caliber. Now, not all of us do average, our average wheeling goes on trails like the Rubicon, but we can all run into situations where something bad is going to happen, where something bad happens rather, and you need to know how to fix it. Now, the old saying, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. Well, in some ways that can be applied to, how to fix certain things that happen to you when you're on the trail. For instance, let's say something were to happen and you shear a control arm right off the axle. That mount just comes right off the axle. This is actually a common problem with the Dana 30s and even the Dana 45s that are found, or the Dana 44s that are found underneath the Rubicons on the TJs and the LJs. Or and the newer JKs and stuff. These control arm mounts are just stamped steel, and they are not very strong, especially when you get into the kind of forces that are applied to a Jeep after you put even the mildest of lift on it and get it into situations like trails, obstacles like the Rubicon. Now, if you were to have something like that happen and that control arm, let's say that your lower control arm gets sheared off the axle, what's going to happen? Well, it basically takes your 4-link suspension system, turns it into a 3-link. Well, you might think to yourself right here, well, hey, Iron Rock Off-Road sells a 3-link system. Then you should be just fine. It should be, okay and good to go. Well, in some regards, yes. In some regards, no. You can still get yourself off the mountain, off the trail under your own power. However, the 4-link system to 3-link conversion by shearing off your control arm mount is still not allowing that 4-link system to operate the way that it should. Iron Rock Off-Road creates a sort of a pseudo radius arm 3-link setup, and that enables to keep the axle in place where it's supposed to be. Once you lose one of your links out of 4-link setup, it is very hard to keep the axle where it should, and certainly in the angle that it should. You lose lower control arm, well, what's going to happen is that axle is going to get pushed in towards the rest of the Jeep on that corner. So for instance, if you lose your driver's side control arm, that axle is really going to get shoved into the Jeep on the driver's side. Anytime you go on over an obstacle, you come up to a face, you got to climb a rock, something like that. Even if you are going downhill and turning to your right, it's going to put all that weight onto that front corner. It's going to really push that axle back into the Jeep. And that causes a lot of problems. 1, pinion angle. 2, tire clearance. The tire is no longer centered in the wheel well, and you're going to start rubbing pretty bad. Well, what do you do about this? Well, there's a few things you can do. You can try to do something like JB Weld. Honestly, it takes 24 hours to cure. You're probably not going to want to be on the trail for 24 hours. You could try something like strapping it up. That might get it out of the trail at least and keep it from hanging up on things, but it's not going to really keep the suspension geometry the way it should, and you certainly can't wheel like that. Another option is to weld it. Now, not everybody has a ready welder. They're a rather expensive portable welding system that hooks up to a car battery, our vehicle's battery system, and has an internal inverter, which ups the amperage and gives you this little wire feed welder on demand. Now, these are quite handy, and they're probably one of the coolest things you can see out on the trail as far as repair tools go. Another thing you can do is create your own welder. And this is not something that we had access to at this point because, well, frankly, we weren't prepared for it. But I have seen this done on other runs. And what it involves is creating your own welder by use of jumper cables, batteries, and welding sticks. And how this works is you line up all your positives, you line up all your negatives. You basically are jumping battery to battery, and you ground the vehicle. You ground the vehicle with your, whatever you're welding. For instance, in this case, it'd probably be the axle. And one side of the jumper cable goes from that last negative of the battery to the axle, and then the positive side gets hooked up to something like a set of vice grips with a welding rod. And essentially what you've done is you've created a massive bank of voltage, and you're going to dead short that welding rod to the chassis or to the axle or to this bracket that you're trying to re-weld. And that melts the welding rod and essentially melts the metal and allows you to bond these two broken pieces back together. It's a risky maneuver because, well, for the unexperienced, it can be quite intimidating. And two, well, the more batteries you have, the better voltage you have, which means the deeper penetration you get with your weld. If you've only got a battery, one battery isn't going to cut it. Two batteries, probably your bare minimum. 3 batteries, you're getting somewhere. 4 batteries, you can probably do most of your average repairs with success. Not everybody's going to carry 3 extra batteries with them. So this is another good reason to really wheel in a larger group. And in this case, it can probably save your butt and get you off the trail, or at least get you back to wheeling if the worst were to happen.
Well, and at a very minimum, you want at least one other equally capable off-road rig with you. You never want to go on the trail by yourself. And when I say by yourself, I don't mean a carload of people. I mean somebody else that can drive your ass out of there if the worst case happens.
Yeah, that's right. We actually ran into that situation where we had a driveline snap. And although we still had front wheel drive, so to speak, with that rear driveline basically completely out of the vehicle, and trying to get off of the mountain in front wheel drive, and that's basically putting the vehicle in 4-wheel drive, spinning just the front driveline, and trying to crawl yourself out of the mountain. It didn't work. Once you get into some steeper terrain, any kind of a decent incline, and you just don't have the ability to push yourself up the mountain. You think, well, I can pull myself up the mountain. Well, what if I had too low? I could drive up in rear wheel drive. Yeah, you probably could. You'd probably have at least a little bit easier way to a means to do it. But we actually had to get towed several times. I would say the better part of a mile and a half trying to climb our way out of the Rubicon. We had to get towed with another vehicle. And that's where, like Tony said, wheeling with another capable rig, or as capable, if not more so of a capable rig than what you're wheeling in cases like this where, well, you need a little bit of help. Now, another time where help might come in is, let's say you're bound up on an obstacle, and you're trying to climb an obstacle on a rock or something like that, and all of a sudden you hear a snap and something gives way. And for those of us who have seen this or experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a bind up. You're trying to, get that wheel to climb up over the rock or something like that, trying to get that tire to grip and climb up that face. And all of a sudden, just bam, something happens. Something lets go. You feel that release of energy. And it's that sudden release of that built up energy where you hear that loud snap and you know that something has gone terribly wrong. Well, if you go do a visual inspection and you look down and you know it's coming from you know it came from the front end, but you don't see any fluids pouring out on the trail. All the U-joints seem to be intact. You don't hear anything really bad going on when, let's say, you drive forward or drive back. Well, that snap just wasn't somebody clapping. That snap was something going wrong. And it's not always easy to figure out what exactly was going on. And it's hard to diagnose, well, whether or not you snapped an axle or something like that internally, if there's something internal going on in the differential that caused that snap. The best way to do it is to get the front end up in the air, disconnect the rear drive shaft, and isolate the front end to the powertrain. And this is going to tell you a few things. Once you put that thing in 4-wheel drive, and for those who have lockers at least, this really helps. because that front locker, once engaged, should be spinning both the left and right side of the front axle. Both those wheels should be spinning at the same time when you put it in gear and give it a little bit of gas. Now, if only one is spinning, well, then you know you've got something going on. You can't determine this with the vehicle on the ground and both drivelines hooked up. You can't do this with the vehicle in the air, with the front wheels in the air and the rear driveline hooked up, because, well, essentially that's going to push the vehicle off of whatever jack you have holding the front end up. So you got to get the vehicle up in the air, you got to disconnect the rear driveline, and you got to isolate that front end. Now, if this happened in the rear end, just the opposite. Disconnect that front drive shaft, get the rear end up in the air, get both those wheels spinning. Now, for those who have open differentials, it's going to be a little bit harder. Chances are you're going to have to open up the differential, grab that wheel, and spin it. If nothing else, the opposite wheel should spin in the opposite direction if you're open. If it's not spinning at all, when you go back and forth, most likely you've got a broken axle.
Well, and if you've got a C-clip rear end, you should just be able to pull on the on the wheel if it starts sliding out, and you know you got a broken axle.
Yep. And for those who've done something like a Dana 44 front end conversion, slapped a Wagoneer or a Scout 2 axle or something like that underneath your rig, Dana 44s have hubs, and oftentimes it's a lot easier to start pulling a hub than it is to pull off the entire disc and wheel assembly. You can do the whole procedure without even taking the wheel off. So and it's usually just about 6 to 8 bolts or something like that, depending on the actual hub. But pull that hub off and look inside, and if everything seems to be intact, well, then you know it's something else other than a hub that has gone loose. In our case, that's exactly what happened. The hub inside, basically the exterior gear, completely grenaded. And well, you're still able to get down in 3-wheel drive, and 3-wheel drive is better than no-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's definitely better than 2. So the wife told me the other day, she drives the 2003 TJ, and the wife tells me the other day, words I love to hear. Oh yeah, the Jeep is doing something.
Oh no.
And I'm like,
here we go.
And she says, it's making a noise. And inside,
cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
I'm not so worried. It's, generally speaking, I've been through enough stuff with the Jeeps that I know that none of it is really that expensive. It's time consuming as far as getting the part and putting it in. And it's summertime here, and we're still looking at 95 to 98 degree days and 1,000% humidity. So anyway, she continues and she says, you know how when you're driving along, now keep in mind, guys, this is a standard transmission, the 5-speed standard, the NV3550 transmission in this 2003 TJ. She says, you know how when you're riding along and you have to give it gas to keep it going, but you hit a speed where you don't need to give it gas, you just kind of let it, you just keep the throttle where you need to get to maintain speed. So you actually, it may be decelerating slightly. She says it makes a noise whenever at that little junction. So I said, well, it didn't sound like that serious to me. So I said, try to determine what kind of noise. I'm thinking maybe the disc brakes are rubbing or something. And she says it didn't change with the brakes. I said, when you put the clutch in, does the noise go away? I didn't try that, yada, yada. So I said, no problem. I'll go out and I'll try testing it out. So the only thing I noticed whenever I test drove it was the transmission makes a whining noise on deceleration. And she gave me a little bit more info about when she heard it. She says she hears it on all the gears, but third, fourth, and fifth especially. So I listened to it, and I actually took my had my phone with me, of course. And since I have that app we talk about, the Tape a Talk, the app that you can use to do recordings for interviews for XJ Talk Show, I have that on my phone, and I pulled that up and hit the record button and held the phone down there where the shifter is, get closer to the deceleration noise that I was hearing, and recorded some of that deceleration noise. And I think anybody that has ever driven or been in a a rig with a standard transmission, we all know that whine noise. Now, I do think that it has gotten louder. Don't know why. It may be low on fluid. I did post up on wranglertalk.com to get some responses, and even Matt weighed in and told me it's probably just a little bit low on fluid. So what I did was, I know there's not a problem. I actually took and I told my wife probably what I need to start doing is every couple of weeks is take the TJ to and from work. That way I can ride in it and keep up with everything that it's doing. And know that it's going to be functioning properly. So I would know about anything that was going wrong with it before she would, hopefully.
Yeah, oftentimes a good road test and just a little bit of hypervigilance and driving a vehicle a few days over, a little bit of a distance, a vehicle that you normally don't drive, will really help you sort of isolate where that noise is coming from. Yeah, Tony, I would point you in the direction of the transfer case, maybe just doing a quick inspection on that, taking a look at the U-joints and maybe even, popping open that top port, sticking your finger in there and finding out where the fluid level is. It could be a chance, like Matt was saying, just a little bit low on fluid there in the T-case.
Unfortunately, I have no idea what fluid is in that in the NV3550. So I can take the top fill port off, the plug off, and check it, but then I don't know what to put in it. So what I decided to do instead was order some Redline MTL, 3 quarts, because I think it takes a little over 2 quarts if I read properly. And I'm going to drain the transmission and fill it with the Redline, and see if that makes a difference in the noise. And hopefully, I can just convince her. Hopefully, if it doesn't, I can just convince her that that's just the sound that transmissions make. And as I've told her before, that's the price you have to pay to be one of the cool kids to drive a Jeep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it is a Jeep. It is an off-road vehicle, and it has a different kind of a drivetrain than, you're a Cadillac, for instance. So it's going to make some different noises. And especially over the years with a manual transmission, parts are going to wear out. You've got throwout bearings, you've got clutch discs, clutch plates, etc. And over time, those are going to wear a little bit. And as they do, they're going to sound a little bit different than the day they were new.
Yeah. I did forget to mention that I did play the audio recording back to her, and she did confirm that that's the noise that she was hearing. So guys, if you're maintaining the other vehicle, the minivan or whatever it is that your wife drives, or perhaps even a Jeep, the Tape-A-Talk application can help you, in as much as you both don't have to get in the vehicle and drive it around and have somebody watch the kids, just so you can, or load up the whole family just so you can go test drive if it's making a funny noise. Now, the other thing I had not planned, I was kind of on the fence about whether or not to get a snorkel for my 98 Jeep Cherokee. It was originally on my list of things that I definitely wanted to do, and a lot of that comes from the experience of weather here in the Houston area. Being on the Gulf Coast, we do get tropical storms, tropical depressions, and the occasional hurricane. And as many of you guys know, the reason why I built up the XJ originally was to make it a escape vehicle for bad weather, like hurricane escape vehicle is the term I always use.
Or zombie apocalypse, whatever.
Zombie apocalypse would be good, but snorkeling would not be necessarily for zombies. That would be something they could hang on to. At any rate, I had the snorkel on my list, not because I want to go through water. I really don't. But if for some reason I am traveling myself, or hopefully myself and my family trying to get to safety, I want to have the ability to get there, even if the inside of the vehicle is trashed and perhaps the AW4 transmission is trashed, and so on and so forth. If the snorkel helps me keep going far enough to get us to safety, then it was well worth it. I was I don't know. I was looking around something. I forget. Somebody had said something about snorkel on the side or something, and I was just poking around looking. And I've already made the decision that since I have the Bushwhacker fender flares, that I was going to go with the Airflow snorkel because it will fit on the XJ without having to do any modifications to the Bushwhacker, whereas the Safari snorkel will not. You will have to modify the Bushwhacker flares to make it fit. So, and also too, it helps that it's $200 or $300 cheaper. I already have a problem spending $300 and something bucks on a hunk of plastic, but you know, that's just the way things are. So anyway, I was poking around looking, and I found a website that is selling the Airflow snorkel for the XJs, and I think everybody knows, but this is for the non-ABS equipped XJs alone. That they were selling it for $325, shipping included.
Wow!
So $390 is what I had seen it for before. Now I did really good. I hovered my mouse over the buy button, and I said, no, I'm not going to spend the money. I'll think about more about this, and you know, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. Blah 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 blah. So the next day, I was actually telling Matt about it and telling him about the great price, and he said, "What's the link?" And we were chatting back and forth through Google Plus, and I went and got the link. And I saw that as a sign, Josh. It was a sign for me to buy it because I had not saved the link. I knew how to get to it, but I didn't save it because I didn't want to be tempted to purchase that. But I thought of that, and I thought, you know, something's going to come up. The XJs are getting older every year. That means the demand for things are going to be going down. Companies are going to be switching to products that they can make money off of. If I want a snorkel, I better get it now. And I don't think I'll be able to find it for cheaper than $325 shipped.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, for what it is and for what you're getting, I'd say that's a pretty dang good price. And you know what, Tony, maybe call it an early Christmas present. I don't know. I'd say go for it.
Yeah. Well, I got news back from the company that ordered it from. I do not recall the name right offhand. But it is one of the vendors that is authorized vendors that are listed on the Airflow USA site. Anyway, I got a message from them, an email from them telling me that, hey, it's going to be, Airflow has told us it's going to be 10 weeks before we get any snorkels from them. And should we hold the order or do you want to cancel it? And I told them, yeah, go ahead and hold it. So they're going to hold the order and fill it when they get it.
Well, that was a perfect opportunity to say, well, you know, I could get one from another guy for $298. You know, maybe you can work me a deal here. No, that's I'd say in any case, you're still getting a good deal, even if your instant gratification is going to be delayed for a little while.
Yep. Well, I'm not looking forward to drilling or I should say cutting a 3-inch hole in my fender anyway.
Yeah, no, I know. That's getting that saw out and drilling that first pilot hole is certainly is something that you got to. When I was cutting my fenders up, doing a trim, that first cut is always the worst. After that, once you get through the paint and primer and you starting to see metal shavings going, well, it's once you see it, I guess there's no turning back, and well, you just got to commit and push through.
Yeah, once you see the metal shavings, you know it's all downhill from there. But at least we get compliments on the rigs, right? Because people look at that and go, "Wow, customized." It is, you know, that is not what everybody else has.
Absolutely, and I still get a few compliments here and there. I really wish I could have had my Cherokee out on the Rubicon and gotten some compliments out there. I sure gave out a few. Seeing the Cherokees that I did see out on the Rubicon, some very nice rigs. I snapped off a few pics, and I wish I could have had some time to stop those guys and get some interviews from them. But we were on our hurrying on our way out, and they were definitely hurrying on their way in. So got some pictures, and want to at least give them a nod, and well, one day my Cherokee will be there alongside of them.
Hey guys, if you enjoy the show, please consider going over to iTunes and leaving us a 5-star review. Also, to let people know about the XJ Talk Show. Let them know about the live show. If you are not aware, if you're a podcast-only listener, we have made the switch from Ustream to YouTube live events. So you should be able to go over to youtube.com/channel/xjtalk and see past shows. And also, too, you should be able to see the live shows. Now, the live shows are Sunday, 10 p.m. Central Time. And, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Definitely become a member on xjtalk.com. And you will find at xjtalkshow.com. And you will be notified about these live show events. You can get in there and you can make comments on the show as it's going on. You can get into the chat room if you're an xjtalk.com member and chat with other people during the show, other people that have Jeep Cherokees like you. And hey, even if you don't have a Jeep Cherokee, maybe you got a Wrangler, maybe you got a CJ, maybe you got a Toyota, and you just want to hear about four-wheel drive stuff, and too bad it's about Jeep Cherokees, but that's the way it goes. Come join us.
Yep, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like Tony said, give us a 5-star review on iTunes. And always, as always, we enjoy hearing your guys' comments and feedback. Give us a call at our voicemail line, 530-675-4102.
Boy, you were cutting that one close, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
and here I am talking really fast because I can tell it's going to stop. All right. Well, we went a little long tonight, but I blame Matt.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was going to try and squeak one last one in there, but I'll save it for next time.
So you were saying, I thought you had said you got some interviews.
Not out on the trail. I got some interviews from the last several shows that I've done, and I've got another big one coming up. This is probably the biggest off-road show, at least in the Portland metro area, if not in the Northwest. It is so big, it has been moved down to Portland International Raceway. We have pretty much the entire side field of the whole raceway there, expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple thousand people at least. So I'll be DJing that. I'll at several points try and get the system set up on autopilot and get out there with the microphone and interview people like I have the last couple of shows. So I do have those. I thought I have loaded up at least one of them. I could be mistaken, but I know I've edited a couple of them. I
saw something uploaded.
The not Bushwhacker, Warrior Products interview is up there.
Oh, we got to get that up.
Yeah. Let's see, what else I don't know if I've got anything else uploaded there. It's been a while since I'm out of touch because I've been gone for a week. Interviews, Wheelin' and Heelin'. That's an interview. That's only about 5 minutes though. And then we already went through the Jolly Jeepers one. Whoops. So yeah, it's just the Eric at Warrior Products, and then the Wheelin' and Heelin', and I've got at least 2 other interviews to share right now.
Cool beans.
So I'll get those. I'll get those up this week as well. So yeah, and then after this weekend, I'll have a lot more as well. I'm hoping I can get at least another 2 or 3. Even if they're 5 minutes a piece. People out there talking about their rigs or whatever. And I'd like to get another one from Jordan Green, who I interviewed after the last year's show about this. He put this whole thing together in 5 weeks last year. So he lost a few. I'm sure he gained a few gray hairs after that whole ordeal, but this year he's obviously had a lot more time to plan. There's been a lot more support. So much so the whole event has been moved to a gigantic venue. If this is successful, or as successful as everybody's hoping this year, then next year this No Roads Required show, off-road show, will have an obstacle course. The entire event will be held in the infield of Portland International Raceway, and they will allow us to modify the or at least use the current motocross track that's in there as an off-road course.
Oh, nice.
That is going to be so cool. And it all stems on how successful this is. And by the looks of it, it's going to be huge.
Well, if that's the case, it sounds like it'll just keep getting bigger.
Yeah, I think so. Because nothing else, there's no other show that is quite the caliber of this one. This is an off-road show. It's not just a Jeep show. So this really opens the door for buggies, Toyotas, Broncos, you name it. Last year, I was doing a walkthrough and sort of narrating what I'm seeing as I'm going through this, going through the parking lot of the show. And up drives right next to me a propane powered Bronco, old school Bronco, like, mid 60s, Ford Bronco with two gigantic propane tanks in the back of it. And it just, you could hear it, the exhaust sort of as it goes past me, and the thing's just mean. And he's done a bunch of work to it. I've seen him in a couple shows over the last year, and the thing is just an absolute beast. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of vendors. I've talked to a few vendors trying to get them on board as well. I think next year is just this is going to be absolutely enormous, and we'll probably start to get on the radar of areas like California and Seattle, Idaho, and we're going to start seeing those people come down. Probably start seeing some larger vendor support. They start bringing show rigs, the mobile showrooms and stuff like that, some semi trucks and trailers, that sort of thing. So it should be really cool, and I'm glad I'm a part of it.
I think I want to try to show. I don't know if you can, if you want to. I know you're pretty tired. If you want to jump out, no problem. But I was going to try to show some of the pictures that Matt has been sending me in Colorado. If you want to pull up the show, the live events, I think I have. If you don't have the link, that should be. That should.
I'm on episode 93. You'll see if I click on that.
I just gave you the link. You should be able to click on the link in the chat, the Skype chat. However you want to do it.
There we go. So, yeah, I'm on live right now, seeing it live.
I'm trying to get the thing to do something. There we go. So, let me know whenever you can see the picture.
I see just the placeholder, the XJ Talk Show with Tony and Josh, a Jeep Cherokee podcast. It's just the red Cherokee with the XJ Talk Show words.
Yeah. That's why I said, let me know when you can see the picture.
Oh, there we go. So I see you, and I see an inlay with something there. It looks
Look
looks
at
like
those zigzag trails, man.
Yeah. Wow. Now that is, yeah.
Oh, and can you see the waterfall? Let me see if I can make that bigger.
Yeah, I just went full screen there. You can stretch that down a little bit or something. I don't know. Oh yeah, I see the waterfall. Wow, look at that. That is amazing. Yeah, when he said, how many miles and how long it took him to travel, I could totally relate, because it took us, 3 days to go 6 miles. It's, I mean, I tell somebody that and they look at me like, are you freaking kidding me?
There you go. Now you should be able to see it full screen whenever it gets when it updates. Seems like it's about a 30-second delay between what gets sent out and when people see it on live events.
Well, I still got the inlay.
You'll see an inlay over the top of the main picture, and then the inlay will disappear.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah, that is remarkable. I haven't had a chance yet to go through all the stuff that I've got. I had a GoPro a GoPro on a stick. I had a piece of about 3 foot long PVC with a GoPro on the end of it. And so I was able to put that GoPro into vantage points and down by wheels and tires and up and over and looking in and looking back, and really had a lot of fun with the GoPro. Oh, that is splendid.
Yeah, I'm just cycling through these. I know you'll be a little behind what I'm seeing.
But yeah, had a lot of fun with the GoPro. Oh, that is a great shot. Nice.
Yeah, he was able to get the XJ Talk logo in a couple of these, which I thought was great.
I wish I would have had cell service up there, or any kind of service for that matter. I mean, there's just nothing. There was like one area called like Chipmunk Ridge or something like that, where if you're in just the right spot on the face of this ravine, on this little corner, you're able to get like 1 bar of Verizon. Well, I don't have Verizon. Oh, there it is, xjtalk.com. Yeah,
there's a couple of them. I hadn't seen that other one.
That is great.
I told him, I made a comment on the one that's coming up. You'll see it as it's a good 45-degree incline.
Look at that.
You have to describe it. I don't know which one you're looking at, but anyway, the one that has the kind of the 45-degree incline. I told him that just looked scary. He says, "Nah, it was just a nice solid trail," and it really wasn't the trail that he was on. It was more the idea of one little misstep. Yeah.
You're like that. Oh wow, yeah. Look at that. That is something else.
Oh, and there's that waterfall. I believe it's the same waterfall. That there's a better image of that one coming up. And you can see the house just at the top of the rock formation where the waterfall is coming out of.
Yeah, that is really neat. Oh my. Yeah, looking down that ravine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got the mountains on either side. Holy cow! Look at that, a house up by the waterfall. Is that a little suspension footbridge I see just off to the left of the house? Holy cow. That would be really freaky.
What a great place to see. You know, I bet you the star viewing is beautiful. I was going to mention that, ask you about that out there on the Rubicon. I bet you the stars are just amazing out there.
Absolutely stunning. I mean, I've been camping quite a bit in my life, and you're out in remote areas and stuff and watching the stars, but you know, I don't think I've ever seen a sky quite that full. Oh, I was going to mention, I didn't mention this, that we, the night we rolled in, we smelled smoke, and we're thinking, what the hell is that? And come morning, there was a haze through the whole valley there.
You're talking about the wildfires, aren't you?
Yeah, we were downwind, I guess, from the wildfires, and that smoke had blown in. And later in the day, the wind sort of picked up and blew that back out, and we were fairly clear for a few days. But then the winds changed and the smoke came back in, and it created this haze, and it was trippy because at sunset you can see this like brown line where, you know, the smoke is warm enough that it rises up to a certain point, but it's dense enough that it stays below a certain point. And so you have this like brown line in the sunset. It's kind of weird, kind of neat. I've never quite seen anything quite like that. But it was pretty neat to see that, and to know that, geez, I mean, that smoke is coming all the way up here, and it's enough to really put a haze in a lot of the pictures that I took. You can see it all. I'm gonna be doing, as soon as I go through it. Like I said, I've got somewhere between 20 and 30 gigs of stuff to go through. So a lot of video, a ton of pictures. So I'll eventually get those uploaded, hopefully throughout the next couple of days, and get them posted up as I go through, and I'm gonna try and do a full trip report, but I may just end up posting up, 200 or 300 pictures and saying, here, enjoy. I might do a link to a separate photo bucket or something like that. So, but I'll get those up and get those sharing as soon as I can, and of course I'll have all those videos on my YouTube, and then I'll share those with XJ Talk, and we can share those with our listeners and stuff as well.
Hey, check out this comment. Now, first off, here's a movie trivia question. Where is this name from? What movie is this name from? The comment was made by Ray Finkel. Does it ring a bell?
Ray Finkel.
God,
it almost sounds like a Fletch personality type of name, but
I can give you a hint.
Okay.
Miami Dolphins football player in the movie. Played in the Super Bowl for the Miami Dolphins.
Finkel.
You get to know this name because of the stolen mascot from the Miami Dolphins, namely a dolphin.
It's not ringing any bells.
It was the kicker in I forget the year it was supposed to have happened, Super Bowl. He missed the kick that would have won the game and the Super Bowl for the Miami Dolphins. His name was Ray Finkel. He had a partial sex change operation and came back as a captain of the police department on Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Is that right? I'll be damned.
So I don't know. Sean Young actually played Ray Finkel on that movie. But anyway, I saw that name and I went, oh, come on, I know that name. Anyway, his comment was, okay, so I'm trying to fix my triaxle under the camshaft vector. What kind of tool should I go with to start the job?
Well, you need a left-handed thingamajig to start with, and you'll probably end up finishing with a hooey stick.
Yeah, Jim says Napoleon Dynamite. Buzz, no, that was wrong, Jim. All right, man. I'm sure you're tired. We're almost midnight here, so
I'm beat. So yeah, I'm gonna crash, man.
All right, I'll catch you later. Glad to have you back.
Thanks, man. Good night, folks.
All right, guys, that's our show for tonight. A little extra there in the beginning and in the end. I guess that's kind of be the norm, but hopefully that's some of the fun of being here for the live show. The video should be up. If it's not up already for your review, it should be up as soon as the YouTube servers get done, whatever magic they do to working through it. I probably will be editing out the first part of the show up until the part where the opening music actually starts, but I'll be leaving in the bits at the end. So that'll probably change sometime tomorrow. Jim, thanks for being there. We appreciate the other folks that came in and have enjoyed, hopefully, the live show tonight. Don't forget, every Sunday, 10 p.m. Central Time. And I think we're going to be continuing to use the YouTube live events. Time will tell. We'll have to see how people like it. If you guys do like it, please let us know. If you don't like it, please let us know and let us know why you don't like it. I still think it's better than Ustream because they are just horrible with all of the commercials that they play at various times during the show. So I that's the main part that I have a problem with is you're watching the show. You may be coming to a critical juncture of something that you were hoping to hear, and boom, the show doesn't stop for you. It just gets overrode. At least that's my understanding. So you could miss a critical bit of the show, and I don't care for that. So until next week, we'll see you. Don't forget the show, the podcast is on iTunes. You can also go to xjtalk.com, xjtalkshow.com, and listen to the show there or download it there. and enjoy it driving back and forth to work. Make sure you tell a friend that has a off-road vehicle, hopefully a Jeep, as they would probably be the most interested in it. Let them know about the show. We'd like to get our listenership, our viewership up. If we get enough viewers on, and in fact, I think we had about 7 or so tonight, which is a fairly decent number, at least good enough to where we may be able to have the live call-in line active and take 1 or 2 calls for the live show and, of course, for the podcast. So that could be coming up really soon, depending on how the turnout is for the live show. So till next week, you guys have a great week, and hopefully you don't bend or break anything on your Jeep till next Sunday.